Larry Kudlow, CNBC senior contributor and host of the Larry Kudlow Show, heard on WMAL Saturdays at 7 p.m. Larry, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, so you say in your latest column that I'm reading here that you think we should support the president when it comes to taking on ISIS. I just have one concern, and that is I'm not sure the guy is really in all the way. I think he's going kicking and screaming. I think all of his body language, I think his unwillingness to call it a war against ISIS, all suggest he wants to do the bare minimum. And I'm not sure that's the way you have success in a situation like this.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think those are very, very valid concerns. I mean, my major point was that he's now at least defined the mission as degrade and destroy. That's a big uptick, and I like that. And I believe sincerely that we must take action. We must take action. ISIS will run right through the Middle East, but just as important, if not more so, they're going to come to get us. They are coming to get us at some point, and that point may not be very far away. Regarding the execution and commitment, which is what you're asking, there are a lot of questions. There are a lot of ifs. In fact, since I wrote that piece, I had a very lengthy interview with General Jack Keane, and he raised some really interesting, important points. One of the points was, quite simply, why didn't we start massive bombing Wednesday night when the president made his speech, and bombing not only in Iraq, but simultaneously, keyword, in Syria. Keane, and I guess some other experts, I use Keane because I think he's just the best, has a great point there. You know, you're saying commitment, and we should have started right then and there, Iraq and Syria. The other major points, and there's a whole gaggle of them, truthfully, this business of no boots on the ground. I understand combat boots on the ground as an infantry, but Keane and others are saying, look, you're going to have to put U.S. Special Forces on the ground, probably in the thousands, to accompany whatever other combat troops we have, whether they're Peshmerga or whether they're Iraqi or whether they're other Sunni. You've got to have U.S. Special Forces on the ground with them in order to, for example, have the air-to-ground intelligence. Otherwise, you can't have accurate bombing. And that's such an important point, and I didn't realize how far away Obama was going to take us on that. Apparently, the Joint Chiefs of Staff have lost an internal battle to the White House, where the Joint Chiefs said, look, we need Special Forces not just at the brigade headquarters level, which is what the president wants, but on the ground inside the battalions. And that's a huge difference. And I did not know that battle was raging, so much so that the chiefs have apparently given up at this point to persuade the president to put those special forces inside the battalions as they move. You see, this is not just counterterrorism. This is ultimately a counteroffensive to reclaim lost ground and then some.
Well, yeah.
And that's all of that is missing thus far. So your point, again, commitment, I don't know if I want to doubt his commitment, but I do doubt his execution. And, you know, the comparison with Somalia and Yemen was just not good. This is nothing like that. This is a scale vastly greater than Somalia and Yemen.
Yeah, and he left the comparison to Libya out of that equation, even though it really was the same strategy in Libya, because that didn't go so well.
Right.
Larry Kudlow, swinging it back to domestic issues, specifically monetary policy, you are a keen observer of the Fed, and apparently we've got a pretty important meeting this week having to do with the quantitative easing and whether it's really going to be shut down or not. Is that right?
Well, I think there's no question, I think, that we will shut down quantitative easing. That will be completed in October. And, by the way, I'll give Yellen credit for that, for a chair who has been pretty dovish. She's actually followed through on the whole Bernanke policy, month by month, getting rid of that. But what the market is really going to look at tomorrow, I mean, this is going to be the whole ball of wax. There'll be an FOMC statement and then a news conference. And people want interest rate guidance for the future. They want to know, is the Fed going to lean hawkish or dovish? Is the Fed going to begin to raise rates sooner or later? These are very, very important issues to both the stock market and to the bond market. Recently, we've seen some better numbers kind of scattered. I mean, trend-wise, jobs have done better, although last month they were disappointing. Trend-wise, industrial production, which is a key indicator, has done better, although it did slip in the last report. But by and large, the economy looks to be a little stronger, and therefore you can see already in the bond market, interest rates have backed up about 30 basis points. I think they're about 260. They had gotten as low as 230 on the 10-year. What will the Fed do? What will the timing be? People are really, really going to focus on that, and we'll see if there's any clarity from the central bank.
Well, are energy sectors being sort of impacted by what's going on in the Middle East right now?
No, I don't think so.
I see that there's some concern about some of the energy stocks being sort of impacted by all that.
Well, that's a price issue. Price of crude oil has come down to just over $90 a barrel, and we're at a resistance point here. The technicians will tell you, and it could drop to as low as $85 a barrel. And that has, by the way, affected gasoline at the pump, which is down to about $3.40 a gallon. I guess the peak there was about $3.80. What you're seeing is a very strong U.S. dollar.
Is that
I call it king dollar. And I wish we'd see more of king dollar. There are many reasons for that, but one of them is an expectation that the Fed is going to be supplying considerably fewer dollars in the next couple of years than it has in recent years, although all their pump priming has come to pretty much naught. I mean, it never was converted into the money supply. There are a lot of technical reasons for that, but that's, we've loaded up the balance sheet, but it's all pretty much gone into excess reserves held by banks. They haven't really loaned out the money as yet. But anyway, the dollar's up on the dollar index. The dollar's up against gold, which I use as a key marker. Gold has been soft. It's it's around $12.50 now. Could drop a whole lot more. So that means, strong dollar, weak commodities.
Right.
And that includes oil.
All right.
And that's like a pretty good little tax cut for the economy, particularly
Yeah,
for the
that helps,
consumer.
doesn't it? Sure does. All right, Larry, thank you so much. Good to have you.
Thank